What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And I am recording this in the aftermath of the Kansas City Chiefs getting destroyed in Super Bowl 59 at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles. And today I wanted to talk more about why the Kansas City Chiefs lost this game. The real reason why I believe the Kansas City Chiefs lost this game. And obviously, you know, if you watch the game, you know a lot of the reasons that they lost. But I'm talking about the deeper rooted issue as to why the Kansas City Chiefs lost. I want to get into that in this video. And you guys kind of heard me talk about this with Michael Darcy of KC Sports Report last night. If you joined our live stream that we did reacting to the game, go ahead and watch that for this video, though, if you have not seen it, because we had a really good conversation about this team and kind of what things look like going forward. But the real reason why I believe the Kansas City Chiefs lost this game is because they went up against a team that simply has a better GM and a better owner than them, that is constantly making savvy moves, that is constantly spending money, manipulating the cap, making all-in moves, even despite the fact that most people would look at them and say there's no way that they can improve from where they were. And this is a team that lost the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they went back and they got better in just about every single area. And I think looking at this game, you saw some of the weaknesses that we kind of questioned about this team. We mostly kept quiet about it because, well, the Chiefs just won back-to-back Super Bowls and like they kind of earned the benefit of the doubt. But after that's the kind of loss that makes you wonder where you're really set at. And I'm not saying that there aren't strong areas of this team, because obviously they are still strong in some areas, excuse me. But I think at the same time, last night's game was a culmination of all of the bad moves that Brett Veach has made and all of the great moves that Howie Roseman has made as the Eagles general manager. And here's what I mean by that. Last night, left tackle was a major issue, and you could argue the biggest reason why the Kansas City Chiefs lost. Joe Thuney simply could not hold it down anymore. The Eagles absolutely abused that matchup. Mike Caliendo at left guard, having to put him there, it just wasn't going to work, and the Eagles' defensive line was too strong. You couldn't block them with Mike Caliendo and Joe Thuney, a true left guard, at left tackle. And that speaks to the failure that Brett Veach has had at the left tackle position as of recently. And I'm just calling a spade a spade. Now, before I get, more into the details of this video, I do want to say, like, I'm not trying to be a guy that plays both sides of the fence, that says, or congratulates Brett Veach and gives him credit when things are going well, and then saying he sucks when he's bad. I mean, that's just not the way it works. However, for those of you that have watched my channel for a long time, have been around here for a while, you know that I've been critical of Brett Veach when he wears things like this. And I'm just being objective, man. Like, if you want homerism, you can go and watch another Chiefs channel that, just peddles Chiefs homerism. But if you want true, like, honest analysis, that's what I'm going to give you. And last night was an indicator that Brett Veach has failed at left tackle. Over the past couple of years, he's spent multiple top 100 picks on the left tackle position. They've tried Kingsley Suamataia. They've tried Wanye Morris, who got benched right before the postseason. And that hurts. And draft picks like Sky Moore and Felix Anudike-Uzomah and Kingsley Suamataia, and you could even throw Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. But draft picks like that, when you're trying to, because this team, and a lot of you guys, us fans say, this team values draft picks. They want to extend the window for as long as possible by bringing in cheap talent through the draft. But the problem is when you're missing on picks like that, and it's not that it's every single pick in the draft. Like, I can admit, like, Brett Veach has had good drafts. He's found great value a lot in the later rounds. But, man, the premium picks that the Kansas City Chiefs have had, some of them over the last several years, Brett Veach has just burned them. And that hurts when you're trying to go for a three-peat, because not only did those guys like an FAU and a Sky Moore and a Kingsley Suamataia not live up to their draft status to this point, but it's the fact that they're complete zeros, non-contributors. I mean, how different do things look if those guys are just average football players at their position? The Chiefs could have used an average left tackle last night. The Chiefs could have used an average defensive end last night, an average wide receiver. And when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, man, they have nailed every single draft, seemingly. And I know Chiefs fans say, oh, well, it's hard when you're picking at the end of every round. The Eagles have gotten some top 10 picks, because of that trade that they pulled off. They've had a lot of valuable picks, but they win last night, even if you take away those top 10 picks. I mean, that's just how much they overwhelmed the Chiefs. But if you just look at the Eagles picks that they, originally owned over the last several years, the Eagles have been picking in the latter half of the draft. They picked 31 a couple years ago. They're going to pick 32 again in this draft. And I just hate using the excuse of picking at the end of the round, because Nolan Smith was a guy that tore this team up last night for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was the 31st overall pick, taken one pick before Felix Enudike-Uzama. Cooper DeJean, who had a pick 6 in the game, was the guy that the Eagles got in the second round after almost every single team passed up on him. Twice, even. They're making savvy. You can get good players if your draft evaluation is on, even if you're picking at the end of the round. So I don't like using that excuse, but you look at what Howie Roseman has done, and he just is making the right picks, and he's making the right moves. He's making savvy moves. Another example that I point to is Mekhi Becton. That was a guy that signed with Philadelphia this offseason for 1 year, $2 million is what he got. And he was a stalwart on their offensive line. Now, they played him on the interior, but that was a guy that played left tackle for the New York Jets before coming over to the Philadelphia Eagles. We knew that he had a ton of talent. He was a top draft pick not that long ago. And this was a guy that I was screaming for the Kansas City Chiefs to sign. And they showed zero interest and went ahead and burned another draft pick on Kingsley Suamataia, who at this point does not look like the left tackle of the future. And that hurts, man. That moves like that hurt. The ones that you miss, especially one like Mekhi Becton, who could have realistically played left tackle for you last night, or even played left guard because he was an upgrade over Mike Caliendo and he played guard for the Eagles. Mekhi Becton, that would have changed a lot in this game. And picking up guys like Zach Bond, for nothing. And he was a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. And not saying that we needed a linebacker necessarily, but those are the types of moves that you see Howie Roseman making time after time that is putting his team over the top. And the Eagles, I think, there was a lot of discussion about it this week. They were more talented than the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I thought the Kansas City Chiefs had the better players at the positions that truly mattered in this game. And that's what I thought would put them over the top. But, man, the Eagles' talent was too much. And, you look at the Chiefs defense, who really isn't to blame in this game. I mean, this game goes on the offense if you're going to split up the blame. But if you want to nitpick some stuff from defense, the pass rush was not getting pressure on Jalen Hurts. And I look back at that trade for Joshua Uche. They burned a draft pick there, Brett Veach again. And there seems to be a disconnect between GM and coaching staff, because Brett Veach says, here, I'm going to give you a speed rusher. And Joshua Uche is the type of player, the type of model of pass rusher that the Philadelphia Eagles love and the Philadelphia Eagles value. Speed rushers, athletic, wins quickly off the line. The Chiefs don't have that on their defensive line, and yet Brett Veach brought one in, and for whatever reason, the coach just sat him on the bench. And I just shake my head at things like that. It hurts, man. It really hurts. J.K. Dobbins, the Chiefs are going to need an explosive running back this offseason. J.K. Dobbins was a guy that was an explosive running back this year. I called for the Chiefs. If you were here on this channel, I was screaming from the mountaintops the Chiefs should take a flyer on J.K. Dobbins. We know what he's capable of when he's healthy. Maybe a struggle to stay healthy, but why not bring him in? And the Chiefs had him in the building, decided not to sign him, signed CEH again instead. And that's what I don't like, is the doubling down of failed draft picks that we see too much from Brett Veach. And that's also another reason why I think Howie Roseman is simply just better as a GM than Brett Veach, is because instead of doubling down until the bitter end with some of his failed draft picks, Howie Roseman, once he realized, hey, I missed, he goes out and he addresses the problem by doing something else on top of it. And you constantly see them stacking talent. Look at that defensive line. I mean, the Chiefs just have not invested in the trenches in the same way that the Eagles have, and they also are missing on too many of their evaluations in the trenches or at these important spots. And that is what separated a team from the Eagles, or separated a team like the Eagles from the Kansas City Chiefs last night. And I just am really disappointed. And I don't want to seem like I'm just playing the other side of the fence now that the Chiefs lost. And I gave Veach credit for making, in-season moves to bring in D-Hop and Kareem Hunt in the wake of injury. But, even then, those were positions in which I thought the Chiefs should have added more depth in the offseason. And then you wouldn't have had to make a panic move in the middle of the season for guys like that. Albeit I loved the moves and I loved having D-Hop and Kareem Hunt on this team. I think they were great locker room presences, and I wouldn't mind seeing them back next year, both of them. But these are the things, man, at the end of the season, when you do lose, we have to go back and look at and say, okay, maybe this was an area in which we could have done a little bit more. Left tackle for sure. I mean, Brett Veach was just not aggressive enough in the left tackle market. They thought that they could go out there, roll out a rookie left tackle and Wanya Morris, and everything was good. And it was really a patchwork offensive line on that left side for most of the year. And Brett Veach, a few years ago after they lost to the Bucs in Super Bowl 55, he said, "I will never let that happen again." Well, guess what, Brett Veach? You let it happen again. It happened again in Super Bowl 59 on your watch. And I take issue with that. This was an area of the team in which the Chiefs have spent so many assets, spent so much money. They've spent $20 million on Juwan Taylor. They just gave Creed Humphrey a massive extension. Joe Thuney is one of the highest paid guards in the NFL. You've spent top 100 picks on left tackle, and yet, man, it just is not there still. In the last 5 Super Bowls, Mahomes has had 5 different left tackles. You cannot have that type of instability at the second most important position on offense. And then I talked about ownership, and I think, I brought this up last offseason, but the Kansas City Chiefs are one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to cash over cap spending. I can make a video later this offseason explaining more of what that actually is, but Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, spends cash to keep good players and to add talent constantly. And Clark Hunt is just not spending the same amount of money as Jeffrey Lurie is. And I know people are saying, Josh, there's a cap. You can't just spend more money or spend more cap space. But that's the difference between cap space and cash spending. If you're spending more cash, sending more cash flow to your players, immediate cash flow, then you're able to project more cap space, and you're able to, give players bonuses so that their cap number is down and things of that nature. It's a whole complicated thing, but essentially speaking, the cap is more of like a 4 to 5 year credit apparatus, and it doesn't necessarily determine how much money, your payroll to your roster in a given year. And Clark Hunt has been one of the cheaper owners when it comes to cash over cap spending. And I think, maybe for once this offseason, he needs to pony up, open up the checkbook, and spend a little bit more cash so that the Chiefs can not only retain their good players, but bring in additional talent. Otherwise, you're getting worse. If you're not getting better in this league, you're getting worse. And I just think the Kansas City Chiefs didn't get better in enough areas. I think the cornerback room is somewhere where they're going to have to add depth. The pass rush was not as good this year. Offensive line was not as good this year. Wide receivers were better, but Mahomes clearly didn't have any time to get rid of the ball last night, as we saw. So this is a game where, you got beat so bad that as Brett Veach, the general manager, and the coaches wear some of the blame too, for sure, and the players. But the real deep-rooted reason as to why the Kansas City Chiefs lost Super Bowl 59 is that they've missed on too many evaluations when it comes to adding players to this roster. And so Brett Veach, Clark Hunt, those guys need to take a look in the mirror after this game and ask, where did it go wrong and what can I do to fix it? So that's going to be a lot of the conversation this offseason, but I'm going to go ahead and end this one there, guys. But I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, go on a little bit of a rant, because I think, you saw why the Philadelphia Eagles prevailed last night. They have an owner and a GM that just are two of the best at their job in the NFL, and their roster was super talented. They were better than the Kansas City Chiefs all over the field. And I think the Chiefs need a reset, specifically on the offensive side of the ball this offseason. They have aging players all over the place. They were unexplosive. Mahomes and the offense were essentially neutered this year. They turned him into Alex Smith. I think a lot of it is personnel. And I do think, again, coaching shares part of the blame. But again, this is stuff we'll get into later in the offseason. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video there. So that's all I got for this one, guys. I definitely want to hear from you in the comments, though, like what your thoughts are on what I had to say. If you agree, disagree with me, how much of the blame do you think Brett Veach gets after last night's results? Definitely want to hear from you guys. But all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com for more. And last but not least, follow me on Twitter at showmefb. I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all I got. And as always, go Chiefs.